Well, hello, Masterpiece Women. Tina Range, your host for the Masterpiece Women podcast and membership community. We're so excited today to have Dr. Patrick Porter with us. Dr. Patrick Porter, thank you for joining us, Dr. Porter. We're so excited. I'll have you know, you're the first man on Masterpiece Women podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Tina. This is great.
So as we were talking, our focus with Masterpiece Women is really truly a mission to really impact the marketplace for the Lord, to help women to build business, to know who they are, to expand their capabilities by really truly having the tools. And so one of my favorite tools that I have now is BrainTap, Awakened Mind powered by BrainTap. And I brought it with me. So in case people were like, what are you talking about, Tina? You know, this is my little headset, guys. I do it every day, twice, sometimes 3 times a day. But Dr. Porter, tell the audience a little bit, how did you decide to do BrainTap and what your mission, share your mission with us.
Well, with my old company, I had a company that was called Positive Changes, and I sold that in 2002. And really, it was on a mission then to just better 1 million brains. That's what I thought. And so, but then we sold 3 million copies of my books. And I thought, that's too low of a number. So really, I'm on a mission to better 1 billion brains. And what I mean by that is I think that if people can get out of their stress and start operating from their authentic self, really what God has given them as far as their talents and skills, they're going to be a blessing to the world, and we're going to change the way this world functions. Because I think stress and fear and anxiety, those are the things that are crippling really growth and creativity and keeping people tied into the past paradigm of greed. And I think that we're in a community now where you only make money, or you only really succeed in this world when you help other people. If you don't, then there's going to be a crumbling effect to that. So in my life, in 2013, when that company went out of business, because I was basically being paid not to be in business. And then 2013, when I was able to re-engage, I wanted to reinvent the technology that I had invented back in the 80s. And so with the new technology. But it all started really because the church, the priest and the nun came to our house and helped my dad become alcohol free. And so we started using, they called it meditation, but it was really using GSR machines or galvanic skin response systems. So it wasn't meditation in the typical term. It was more relaxation techniques that my dad was teaching. My dad went on to become a psychologist as well. And so that helped us. And so it kind of was a continuing mission from my father to me. And I just feel like my wife and I always joke that we're on a mission from God, because people are, it's not really a joke, but we believe that we are inspired, because every time I've tried to get out of this business, I just keep getting drawn back into it. And what we see, of course, now we have social media. So every day we're getting people posting, benefits of what they're getting with BrainTap. But the whole idea, first of all, was to unlock people's nervous system, because fear and anxiety and stress stop us from realizing our true health potential in balancing our brain. Right now, where there's a tsunami of people who are getting Alzheimer's and dementia, and it's not always what you think it is. I'll just kind of give you a little precursor so the audience understands. Our body can either burn sugar or burn fat. And our brain can either burn sugar or burn fat. In the brain, it's called ketones. So our body is designed to be a fat burner. But as long as we're stressed out, we can't get fat to burn, because the liver is dumping all of its sugar into the bloodstream. Our liver has 25 grams of sugar. And every time we get stressed out, it's dumped into the system. Now, our biology is designed to do this maybe 4 or 5 times a week. Because think about it, when we were in prehistoric times and we would come up upon a tiger or something like that, then our body would have to get the energy to flee. But now they're saying we're getting those same responses up to 300 times a day, just sitting in a chair, looking at our phone or looking at our computer screen. So we have technology out there that's causing our body to be dysregulated. And now we need to use technology to bring it back into regulation. And that's really what we're doing with BrainTap.
I love it. And there's so many programs in there. I I started using the programs initially, and I didn't even realize how many more there were. I'm like, there's so much already in here. And then when I started doing searching and I started putting in different, topics, I was blown away. And I really experienced one day, I decided to put on the weight loss one. And the next day I started to eat a donut. I don't know. I had the grandkids here and I was giving them stuff. And I was like, no, you can make better choices. It was so, because I went right back to my meditation from the night before, having my BrainTap on, and exactly what you had said in that visualization. I went, oh my goodness, this thing really works. I mean, I can tell personally, it's been incredible. And so many of the women out there, they're entrepreneurs, they're trying to balance their kids, they're trying to balance dealing with building business, all of it together, so that time of just really having this on. And I am a nurse, and I still have not, I've read so much of your material, and I'm like, I still don't understand exactly how it works. Can you give us a little bit of the science? Most of us
Sure.
on here are nurses, but so they can understand why it works and why it impacts the brain the way it does.
Right. Back in the 80s, we couldn't really talk about it like we are now because neuroscience has come to such a foreground. But we now know that every cell of our body has something called a chromophore, which is, think of it like a little battery on the cell that's housing the energy to keep the Krebs cycle or the mitochondria going. So for those nurses out there, they'll understand that. For those that don't, just think about it as energy at the cellular level. And so what's happened with our environment is our foods, we're staying in the house, we're not getting the light that we need. And everything in creation is made up of the building blocks of light, sound, and vibration. So even though we see a tree, science would tell us that it's vibrating and oscillating as a tree through light, sound, and vibration. And then we, the old saying that the table that you're sitting at is more space than solid. Although, that's kind of if you want to think of it almost as a metaphysical concept, but the reality now is that science is proving that that's true, that the cellular makeup. So every cell has these chromophores, but you can also think of them as mirror neurons. So in sports, we always think of there's athletic people who can see somebody do something and they mimic it. Just like if you have a mentorship program, they're watching you, they're listening to you, they're trying to mirror you. The reason we do that, and the reason kids are really good examples of this, I have grandkids, so when I babysit them now, I find out all about their parents because they act like them, so right. So, those mirror neurons are being triggered all the time through this process. So we're going to use light. And the reason we use retinal flashing, when people go, why do we have lights in the eyes actually have more mitochondria. Now, mitochondria is a bacteria that absorbs light and transmits light. So the more we work with getting the proper light into our brain, the better it functions. So we also put light in through the ears because the blood from the body goes through the ears. So we're basically bringing light into the brain. Now, light then is translated, or basically they call it photobiomodulation. So what happens is that energy is shared in the brain. Once that energy is shared, then we can introduce different frequencies. Now, when we talk about frequencies, people get a little lost there. But if you think about going to the ocean and you're sitting by the ocean and you loved relaxing by the ocean, that's because the ocean itself, or any big body of water, a river, a lake, they all have an evoked potential of 10 hertz, which means our brain will actually match the frequency of the water. So we relax. And this is because we need water, right? 90% of all people on Earth live within driving distance of water. And the main reason is that we can't survive without it. When they say our planet's overpopulated, the reality is we're only using 3% of the buildable land on the planet. So it's not overpopulated. It's just we're not using it efficiently. So, but we're all crowded in by the water because our brain knows that. If we go to the mountains, for instance, a lot of people like going to the mountaintops, or, I love Colorado, going to well, we now know that has a frequency response of 7.8 hertz frequency. Now, these two frequencies I just mentioned, the ocean 10 hertz, the mountain 7.8 hertz, these actually are different brainwave frequencies. So one is called alpha, one is called theta. These are the two frequencies you need to really be an entrepreneur. If you don't have these frequencies, you will not be a very good entrepreneur, because you'll either be stressed out in your stressed out brain, which is called the beta brain, or you'll be super tired and full of inflammation, which is your delta brain, your sleeping brain. Now, what I can tell you, because we've measured about 30,000 brains over the last 10 years, is that most people out there, their brain is not awake. Their brain is actually trying to go to sleep. 62% of their brain, that's the average across the board of the 30,000 brains, 32,000 brains that we've scanned. The average is that they're operating in a delta brainwave, which tells us that there's a lot of inflammation. Some of your listeners might have heard that inflammation is the cause of all disease. So what we're doing with light is we're going to lessen that inflammation in the brain, because we're bringing energy in.
So Dr. Porter, share with us, you're in this new season. You are a businessman as well as a doctor, and you've had your whole life committed to improving the brains. What led you to decide it's time to pivot and do things differently in this last season of business for you?
Well, I think the main reason is, if you're going to better a billion brains, I can't do that myself. And you're looking for the best vehicle to get this out there. And with BrainTap, it's one of those that people need to understand what it is, because even as I'm explaining it here, I tell people it's like explaining atmosphere to a fish. So I was looking for the right partnership. And so when I met Awakened, which is the group we're going with, they had supplementation that was perfectly matched with our key indicators in BrainTap. Number one, most people aren't waking up their brain. Their brain really wants to be asleep. So we created a series of sessions called SMR. These are morning sessions that wake up the brain. We literally call them digital coffee. So when you match that with Awakened's product, you get this 1-2 punch that's not 1 + 1 = 2, it's 1 + 1 = 5, because it amplifies the effect. Also, with 2/3 of the world not sleeping, we focus a lot of our BrainTap users, which right now we have about 120,000 users out there from one form or another, some using our freemium app, some are using the paid app. And what we find is that as we go out to the market with 2/3 of the world not sleeping, we needed to have a supplement that would help the body to calm down the body. And Awakened had a supplement for that I've tested. It's phenomenal, that puts people into a sleep state. So now we can then train the brain with the right nutrition available. If the brain has the right nutrition, has rest, and then it can sleep and recover, then during the day we get it moving and breathing. That's the number 2 thing. And then what we find out there, unfortunately, a lot of people are not losing weight, even though they're doing the right things. And so I was looking for a supplementation that could feed the body while the body is learning how to regulate itself. Stress is the biggest reason that people aren't losing weight. It's not always the food they're consuming. In fact, a lot of people are probably befuddled because they think they're eating right, they're not eating sugar and all of that. But the reality is that every stress response, they're literally eating a candy bar, because the liver dumps that 25 grams of sugar into the bloodstream. So we've got to downregulate that stress, use the Zenith product that Awakened has, and now the body gets the nutrition it needs, but it's also in that parasympathetic state where it can now absorb, use, and benefit from that supplementation. So this was a great deal. Also, I'm not really familiar with the distribution model, but I went to one of their events in Charleston just so they could kind of show me what it's all about. And the people were wonderful. And I met the owners, and they were very like-minded, and they really are on a mission to better the planet. They have a lot of free content. I'm really into education and teaching people, because I think the biggest reason people don't do these things on their own is they just don't know what they don't know. So if we can get it out there, and with Awakened and the way they're growing, it just seemed to be the right move for me. And even though I'd never really considered it, but we have one of our business growth advisors, our head of what we call the chief revenue officer. He was really big in this industry. And he told me, he said, if we can find the right company, this will be the vehicle for you to get a billion brains. And so that's why we're here. I really do believe. And after seeing what I saw in Charleston and what I've seen since then with the Awakened group, I think they're the right group for me.
I love that. Well, and I think that's encouraging for the women, because when you think about that in your season, oftentimes when we're looking at our businesses, and there are babies, it's kind of hard to let go of that. And really focus on what is your mission? What is your why? Why are you building your business? What is your outcome that you're looking for? And sometimes a partnership or even an acquisition allows that freedom to really get to your goal, and it becomes a win-win. Where I remember back in the day when I had healthcare staffing companies and someone wanted to acquire us, and I was like, no, this is my baby. In hindsight, they went on to, be multi-million, huge, like in the 8-figure range of, and I was too at the time, but I could have done so much more, hindsight, knowing what I know now. And so I love that you're open to that, because I think oftentimes business people aren't. And that just shows your wisdom as well. And I believe that is an incredible vehicle. It is such a win-win. So ladies, be inspired to look at other avenues of getting to the goal that God has placed in your heart, not just keep on doing the same thing. And I think oftentimes, even in business, we get in that pattern, don't we, of keep on doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And I think the power of this technology, Dr. Porter, also is so fascinating to me, of how it really does help change that from a business mindset. I was listening to one of your programs on starting the day off, and I was just blown away. What inspired you to create those business ones? Were there business people you were working with that said, hey, we need some business minded ones?
Well, the main thing happened first when they were doing a movie about Think and Grow Rich, about people utilizing it. This was in California. And when I went to visit a friend of mine, she happened to have the producer there, and he was using one of my old systems. It was called Zen Frames. And they go, wow, Dr. Porter's here, and they were using he used it for his creativity. And he said, would he mind being interviewed? So I'm on the film, this film that they did. And then he said, could you take the 17 core principles of Think and Grow Rich and make them into BrainTap sessions? So we have those. And then I started taking some of my favorite business books and converting them into Cliff Notes, where you can actually integrate those in on a conscious and subconscious level while you're doing the BrainTap session. So I tell people, learning is about taking what you don't know and making it a part of what you do know, and then making it part of your habits and patterns. So that's what BrainTap really does. The awakened mind actually puts you into that best learning state. When you're in that alpha theta state that I talked about earlier, that's a super state for learning. They call it hypermnesia, which means super memory. So when you're in there, you're going to take those core principles. So for me, when I had my franchise company, I took those same concepts and started teaching my owners to think differently, because I needed them to think prosperously. There's no competition in this world. There's too many people to help. We need more people doing it, not less. And so that's part of the mission. And so when you read through that series, and I'm always adding books to it as well, that it's just a part of my own journey too. For me, instead of me going back and rereading a book, I can just put it on. Like, one of my favorites is called Busting Loose of the Money Game, which is a great book by Robert Scheinfeld that talks about you have like this bubble that you operate in, and nothing can enter into that bubble that you don't believe in. So if you don't, you have to bust that bubble so that you can allow your prosperity to come. And, there's different books like that are in there, like The Power of Thinking Big, The Power of Positive Thinking with, Vincent Peale, all the good ones that you think of to get your mindset around that there's no competition in this world. There's only cooperation and collaboration.
That is one of our key, literally, quote unquote, that is our quote for Masterpiece Women. We say it every month at our luncheons, and we say there is no competition here, only collaboration. So I love that. Good. Now, where are those books? Because I actually teach Masterpiece Women. That's one of my training. I'm certified to teach the Think and Grow Rich with the biblical application in our Masterpiece Women membership. Where are those located in your app?
If you look up Wake Up Books, under the business section, there's a business prompt. If you go there, you'll see those, and there's a whole bunch of different business opportunities. There's actually some other people in there too that are using There's ones for women in there, for women in business, that are done by Val Gilmer is her name. She's in there. You'll see them in there if you go to the business section. There's also a version of those sessions that are read by a woman, in case somebody has an issue with my voice, So we try to give people an option, to have men and women. And we take the core concepts and we put them in the right ear and then the left ear, so you're listening down. And we also have the what we call the single voice version. We also have a series, I don't know if you've seen, but it's the Christ Energy Healing Session. So we have a whole series that's all about if they are Christians, they would hear what I did was I took all the Bible quotes that have God talking to you as his child. I put those in so that people can really kind of focus on those and really enrich that part of their life as well.
I love that. Well, I'm going to have to go on a mission. I have seen so much of it, but I have not seen the business one. So that really excites me. I was telling someone the other day who was in my course, I said, think about it. Chapter 4, auto-suggestion, how I keep pounding on you guys, do the auto-suggestion. This does it for you. And it goes down into the subconscious with you just putting it on your head. It's so crazy. So it's amazing. So, well, Dr. Porter, thank you so much for being with Masterpiece Women podcast today. And ladies, I want to remind you that we are having a retreat in November, and we are going to have it at the Marriott Resort, and it's going to be incredible, and we're going to grow together. So make sure you check it out. And Dr. Porter, what would you leave the ladies with as a piece of advice to building their business? What would be that thing that you say, do focus on this one thing?
Right. You're only 6 inches away from any amount of success, and that's the distance between your ears. It's your thinking that's going to make it so. So just like the book my dad had me read when I was in trouble, it's as a man thinketh, there's now as a woman thinketh that they have. And I think that your thoughts are what's creating, God wants you to be prosperous. There's no doubt. So it's the matter is, how do we get the blockage out of the way so you can experience that?
Amen. And I believe more than any time ever now, personally, that God is calling us to be prosperous so we can make a huge impact in the world, because the world needs us. The world needs us to be prosperous so that we can be generous to the world and make an impact for him. It's all his. So
right.
It's not about us. When you shift that paradigm, right, then suddenly it's like, oh, okay. So thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Porter, and God bless you on your new endeavor and this new business. And I'm excited to be a part of it. So thank you again. Ladies, have a great day.
Thank you.